Yeah, what's up? What's up? It's Main Event Mike. This is the main event. Welcome one, welcome all. So glad to be here with you Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every single week. 365 days a year. It's the Main Event 365. For that reason, we bring you football content 365 days a year. Follow us on Facebook at Lions Villain Squad and on YouTube at Main Event 365. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's so good to be here. Going to be a great show today. We're going to talk about all the off-season wizardry of one Brad Holmes from Tampa, Florida, my home away from home. My little connection there with Brad Holmes. Lived 10 years of my life in Tampa, Florida. He and I actually went to the same junior high school. So Brad Holmes, one of my favorite topics. I know it's one of your favorite topics as well. We are going to have a special guest on the show tonight. No, it's not Jeremy Ball, right? No, it's not Russell Wayne. It is former Detroit Lion wide receiver Mark Schmidt. Mark Schmidt will be on the show today, and he has been with us a few times before. And it's always great talking to Mark and getting, that perspective from somebody who's been to training camp, somebody who's had their name called over the Silver Dome's loudspeaker. So it's going to be a great talk with him today. Normally we talk about deep subjects with Mark. We last time we talked about CTE. We talked about what the kind of turf, does it really make you faster on turf as opposed to grass, and this whole issue about grass and turf. If you missed that, you can head over to our YouTube and check out the archive and just check out that interview where Mark and I talked about turf and grass. It was very, very interesting. And CTE, we talked about NFLPA. He's very heavily involved in the NFLPA, and he answered some questions that we had before about that kind of stuff. But today I'm just going to talk about ordinary podcaster stuff with him because he is a former NFL player, and I want to talk to him about the things that we talk about every day. It doesn't have to always go something deep because we have a special guest on. We like it. So let's talk about the Detroit Lions 2023 season. This is something that we're going to talk about it. I want you to put it in the comments for me now. What play sticks out to you when I say the 2023 Detroit Lions season? Now, I know the one for me, and it's a heartbreaker, and you can think that too. But when I just say that, what's the first thing that pops in your mind? Put it in the comments. What's the first thing you think of when you think of the 2023 Lions? For some, it might be choke. For some, it might be magical. But I just want to know your instant reaction when you hear Detroit Lions 2023. I'm really interested to see what you guys think, and then I'll share mine with you as well. We're also going to ask Mark Schmidt that same question. We're also going to talk about what makes Brad Holmes different than these other general managers. What is it that he does that makes him the executive of the year this year by two different entities voted him the executive of the year? What are the particulars though? What is it? Yeah, well, he drafts well. But why? Well, what is it that he's doing that makes him and any of these GMs that are wizards, that are Jedis? I mean, look what they do in Philadelphia every offseason. Howie Roseman is crushing it. What are the intangible things that separate one GM from another? What makes a good GM is what I'm asking. So put that in the comments. I definitely want to hear your comments on that as well. We're also going to talk about the free agent signings that the Lions have had. Marcus Davenport, Carlton Davis. Of course, we're talking about the same thing all podcasters talk about, but we want to take your points and talk about them and expound on them. And then we want to talk to him about draft needs as well. What are the Lions going to be looking for now that the first wave of free agency is over with? Has that changed what the Lions want to do in this draft? I think so. I think that cornerback isn't as big a priority as it was, for sure. Ray Charles could see that by getting Amik Robertson, getting Carlton Davis, you've added talent to the team for the give and the take. The players that you lost, you upgraded on every position that you brought in. And that's called getting better. That's what we want to see, right? So some of these other teams in the North, they lose Aaron Jones, but they gain Josh Jacobs. So how much better did you get? I don't think there's any question that the Bears got a lot better. You lost Darnell Mooney, but you got Keenan Allen. And I know there's people in the chat today telling me Keenan Allen's washed up, this or that. Hey, that guy's a baller, dude. He'll always be a baller. We're talking, you can look at, he gets hurt a lot. But you can say that about every NFL player. Keenan Allen is a difference maker, and it makes the Bears offense more legit than it was. No doubt about it. And DeAndre Swift, they didn't lose a back to get DeAndre Swift the way the Packers did, the way the Vikings did. They didn't have to lose one. They just made themselves better. DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, and Khalil Herbert. Now, that's a quality, awesome trio of backs. So the Bears are legit. And I'm going to say addition by subtraction. They got better because they got rid of Justin Fields. It's hard to imagine maybe in some spheres because the kid is so uber talented. He's incredibly talented. So how do you get better by losing an incredibly talented player? Well, I mean, his type of play just hasn't translated in the NFL into a Super Bowl yet. So until it does, I can't really see sticking on the Justin Fields train. Facebook user says, Kevin Zeitler expected to sign a 1-year deal with the Lions. Welcome to the show, Detroit fan man. Love to have you on here. Says former Ravens Pro Bowl guard Kevin Zeitler intends to sign a 1-year deal with the Detroit Lions. All right, so there you go. That's just going to tie right into what we're going to talk about Brad Holmes. Man, as the show is breaking, as the news is breaking as the show comes on tonight. I love that. Good evening from the mountains of Kentucky, Chad. Great to have you on the show today. People said that about him last year, and look what he did. Keenan Allen, absolutely right. They say that every year about him. He has had a litany of injuries, but it's a tough game. It's not a pillow fight, right? Detroit Dom in the house, incredibly athletic, talented, not as a QB. Right, yeah. Hard to believe. But then again, every Bears fan, their biggest fear right now is this guy's going to go on to be what all of that talent brought him in the first round of the draft, because he's not obviously a chump, right? I mean, the guy can throw. He's got above our average arm talent. It just comes to being able to read defenses. Is it because he had 3 coordinators in a year? I personally think he's going to beat Russell Wilson out. I think Justin Wilson will be the starter in Pittsburgh. Justin Fields, excuse me. I say Justin Wilson? He's the Cajun cook. You guys don't know about him. Justin Fields will be the starter in Pittsburgh. I believe in training camp he will beat out Russell Wilson. Heck, what are the Steelers paying for Russell Wilson? Bag of chips. Denver's paying that whole contract. $1.2 million, I think the Steelers are on the hook for. That's a bargain for Russell Wilson, a Hall of Famer. And now you bring Justin Fields in. They revamped that whole quarterback room from Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, and a promising rookie. And now they've got a promising 4th-year player and a future Hall of Famer. So on the cheap, they don't have to pay anybody. I think Pittsburgh is going to be sneaky good this year. Watch out. Do you think that Justin Fields could excel in a Taysom Hill-like situation? I do not. There is one of one, and that's Taysom Hill. He's one of one. He plays quarterback, tight end, running back. He's about 240, I believe, 250. No, I don't think Justin Fields could hold up to that pounding that your body would take. But he might lose that Bustin' Fields moniker in Pittsburgh. That's what all the Bears are worried about. Bears fans are worried that he's going to just go on and rightly so, because his talent is undeniable. But is he a better runner than Michael Vick? Maybe, probably not. Is he a better thrower of the football than Lamar Jackson? I don't think so. So until a quarterback with that style of play makes it to a Super Bowl, I'm not in. And I think the Bears are doing the right thing, loading up weapons all around, and draft a guy. You get a nice bridge quarterback maybe in Rippon that they just signed, Brett Rippon, or you've got Tyson Bagent, who didn't look terrible and has the physical tools you want. So I think the Bears are something to be reckoned with. Don't overlook the Bears, Lions fans. So it looks like we do have our special guest in the chat today. So be sure to put it in the chat for me. What do you think about Brad Holmes? Is he a wizard? Is he a Jedi? And what is it that makes him so good? And for right now, we're going to bring in our good friend, Mr. Mark Schmidt, former Detroit wide receiver. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it very much. Appreciate it.
Great to see you, Mark. You're looking great.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you, Mark.
Well, I wanted to, what I was telling the viewers before you were in the backstage was we've talked to you a few times before, and we usually go deep when we've got you, right? We're talking NFLPA benefits and things. What kind of turf is faster? We talked about, we had a great conversation about CTE, kind of some deep subjects. But now today, Mark, I just want to talk about run-of-the-mill knucklehead podcast fodder. Okay. And first I want to get your thoughts on the last time we talked was in September of 2023. And I want to get your thoughts on, in a nutshell, what do you think about that 2023 Detroit Lions season?
No, I think it was good, Mike. I really do. I thought they did a great job. I had tremendous, and I'll get to the meat of the product first of what I'm going to say. The decision making in the championship game was absolutely horrible on the fourth downs. It was greedy. It was cocky. It was out of line. It cost them dearly. I have never seen a momentum change in a championship game like that did. When you don't make it on 4th and 2 or 4th and 3, okay, you have swung the momentum to the other team, and you're on the road. There were points staring them in the face. They could have gone up by 3 scores with about a 47-yard field goal, decent one, but which would put you up 27-10. I know he brought us there. I know he set that team up with Holmes and everything else. But man, did he blow it in the championship game. And wow. You can use this soundbite any way you want. And I have been on this show. I have preached how much I like Coach Campbell. It looked cocky. It looked out of line. He looked like an amateur compared to the cerebral San Francisco 49ers. Okay. And the Shanahan crew. And it was horrible. It was horrible what I was watching. I had talked to Jeff Chadwick during the week. I had talked to Johnny Morton during the week. I had talked to John Witkowski during the week. We were all planning on going out to the Super Bowl and everything. And I had 5 of my Detroit friends that I was going to go with. And, that Monday came and it was nobody was going except me. I went to Vegas. Anyway. So I know I'm being really outspoken here, but it needs to be said. And you know who was toughest on Coach Campbell, Mike? Tom Brady. Said it just like me. Maybe not as direct as I was right now. And I have been an advocate of his, Mike. You know that. He's done I'm
in shock, Mark, that you're laying this all at MCDC's feet right here and continue, please.
Horrible. It was horrible. I mean, that game was won. I'm getting texts at halftime from my Detroit teammates, my ex-teammates, and all these other people that, I live in the Buffalo area. And I got, I must have had 10, 12, 14 texts at halftime. Oh my God, you're going to the Super Bowl, da, 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 da. And then these fourth downs because of analytics. Well, guess what about analytics? Where did that get Frank Reich? Analytics get Frank Reich. Oh, geez, he doesn't have a job anymore. And I go to Frank Reich's Call to Courage every year in Buffalo in his fund that he runs every year. And I am a fan of his, and I like him as a person very much. I've known him for many years. But that's analytics. That game was there for them to be taking. Their head coach blew it. Okay. Brady said the same thing. A lot of people have said the same thing online. A lot of Lion fans didn't want to be too hard on Coach Campbell simply because he got him there. And he did. I'm not saying that. He did a great job, but he blew it. I mean, I can't be any more candid about it other than that. He blew it in the championship game. And I already said the word cocky, and I said a lot of things.
And there is no shortage of people who share that opinion Mark. However, you know what else? But Dan Campbell didn't let a ball bounce through his hands and off his face mask. And Dan Campbell
Reynolds.
didn't hit a cheap shot on Deebo Samuel. And Dan Campbell didn't miss a perfectly thrown ball in the end zone like Jamison Williams did. The Lions had plenty of opportunity to win that game, even without Dan Campbell's moves that, like you said, that got them there.
To a point. Now, Reynolds, I don't even know. I would never be able to. I played wide receiver at a high level. After those drops in those situations, as a coach, I would have to. And I coached in Arizona. You know how I coached out there, the wide receivers. And there's certain things as you go. There's certain guys are gamers, certain guys are not. I would not be able to coach Reynolds anymore. Not be able to coach him
after those drops.
Can't. I wouldn't be able to do it. Would not be able to do it. Out the door. Go. I can't do it. I wouldn't put him in the game. I wouldn't put him in because already he's defeated. Because in the biggest moment, which your teammates helped you get there, you helped your teammates get there. And in the biggest moment, right before the biggest game in the world, you failed. And then you failed again. Okay? Now, I'm saying the things that coaches feel, but coaches don't want to be so outspoken, especially nowadays. They don't want to say so much about this, especially to the press. We do that all internally. But I'll tell you what, and I was a wide receiver coach at a high level in college. Can't do it. Can't look at him anymore like that. I got to look for another guy. That's it. He dropped the ball in those situations. No, can't do it. Done. Finished. That's
it. And his contract's still up in the air. It's not known for sure that he is bringing him back yet, as far as I know. So, but Josh Reynolds did a lot of great things all year for us, and he made some clutch catches.
In the championship game, the NFC championship game. That's the moment. That's the moment. The hardest moment at the hardest time. You're on the spot on 3rd and 8. You got to make that play. And then you failed once, and then you failed again. Can't do it. I can't in my brain. I can't get it. I won't be able to. No, I can't. I'm a human being. Yes, I'm a football coach and I'm a wide receivers coach, but I'm also a human being.
And a fan of the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, of course I am.
Former Lions receiver Mark Schmidt right here on the main event. Put it in the chat if you've got a question for Mark. We'll try to filter them out there for you and get one in there. But I'm just going to stay with this, Mark, because you're really blowing my mind. Let's take the San Francisco game out of it, because it's a heartbreaker. And it's like when Larry Bird stole that inbounds pass for the Pistons. I'll never, ever get over it. Okay. I mean, I was already figuring, what am I going to wear to the Super Bowl party? What am I going to eat at the Super Bowl party?
Right.
Right. Up by 17 at halftime. And it was an epic collapse. And you're laying it at the feet of the head coach, Dan Campbell. And there are a lot of people who share that opinion. But that is the closest we've ever been to the Super Bowl in the Super Bowl era. So in my lifetime, for sure. And take out that part of it, the epic collapse. In a nutshell, tell me, how did it feel, that's the whole season feel as a Lions fan, for not just a former player, but as a fan of the Detroit Lions? Wasn't it great to see the way the crowd was in every game and traveling? And I mean, give me something positive, Mark.
Yeah, and it's been rightly so. Other than the Baltimore game, which was a collapse, which I kind of felt they were kind of due for one. I thought it was fantastic. And what the question that I've been asked on a lot of podcasts and a lot of radio shows, because I live in the Buffalo area, who's got, who do you think has the better fans? And I finally, one of the shows that I was doing, I got the question. It was like the 4th or 5th time in a 2-month period, and I had to say something. They're like, no, we're not going to let you stay middle of the road here. And I had to say, and I was in Buffalo during the Super Bowl era, and I was in the league at part of that too. But I would give the nod to the Lions fans just because of the way they follow the team on the road. And it was a lot to do as far as what they do, as far as the traveling and so forth. And they did it, and they had a lot to be happy about on the road this year. And I mean, they had a great year. I mean, if I had to rate the season, the way it is now with free agency and parity and so forth, Mike, if I had to rate it on a scale of 10, it was a 9. The season was a 9. It really was. And I don't know. Maybe you agree. Maybe I don't. What do you think it was on a scale of 1 to 10? Without the championship game.
Without the championship game, it was a 10 for me. But when the championship game came and the way that it happened, if it would have, we blew a 17-point lead and crumbled in like you said, a collapse like you've never seen before in a championship game. And You take that out, that knocks it down a full point for me. I'm at a solid 9 as well, but it was magical. It was great to finally look ahead at what the Lions have built for the future here and know that no matter what happened in that championship game, we are not going to be the doormat and the punching bag for all the other fan bases and all the other people out there that want to scrape the Lions off the bottom of their shoe. That's not going to happen for a while now. Would you agree with that?
To a point, but hear me out, and it's a great question. It's a very good question. Fair question. Mike Greenberg came out with something this week. I know how you follow things, and I know how Russell follows things. Greenberg said Detroit had their window of opportunity. They didn't take the opportunity. Green Bay is the better team going into 2024. I like Mike Greenberg. I like a lot of things he says. He's very insightful. I think he's very good at analyst. He may not be wrong. Green Bay is getting better and better and better. LaFleur can win with you and I playing. Okay. I mean, that kid can flat out coach. I've heard that from some of the NFLPA guys who know, guys that I talk to, some of the older guys that are like, this LaFleur, he can coach anybody. He can flat out coach. He gets along with the players. He is disciplined with the players, but they respect him. They have a quarterback who's coming along. They have some good receivers. They have a decent offensive line. The defense, a little suspect here and there, but that's something you got to worry about. So my answer to you, and that's a loaded answer. Do I think they'll be good for a long period of time? I think they will, but I don't think they're going to just waltz to the NFC North Championship. To answer your question, Mike, I don't think so. Green Bay is getting better and better.
Yeah, and you're actually answering the question. I have 2 questions from now, which is we're just going to jump to that right now. How far has this entire division come on the same, piggybacking off what I was asking about the Lions? This whole division was kind of looked at as like, the black and blue, they beat each other up. It's a bunch of 7 and 9 teams every year. Now this is one of, if not the strongest division in football, do you think? And what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if it's the strongest. I still look at that, the Cincinnati division and with Baltimore and Pittsburgh is getting, better with the 2 quarterbacks. And, I look at that division. Cleveland's very good. That's probably my favorite division, but the NFC North is close, I would think. Chicago is still suspect but the other 3 teams are, Minnesota is a good football team. I don't know how they're going to be without Cousins, but they're still going to be a decent football team. And then it's Detroit and Green Bay. But I would take the AFC. What is it? The AFC North, right? Yeah, North as the best division in football right now. So I disagree with you a little bit there, but I would, I think it's a 3-team race because I don't think Chicago's really going to be in it, to be honest with you. And I know they've done a lot of piecemealing there to make that team better. I really do. I think they'll be better than they were last year, but I think at best they're an 8 or 9 win team next year.
I think the Bears are legit. I think that Keenan Allen, as being a wide receiver, that man's a technician. He's had, and I hate it when people love to throw the injury thing because all NFL players get injured. It's a tough game, right? Wouldn't you agree? I mean, injuries do play into it, but if he's healthy, you trust him, right? I mean, a guy like Keenan Allen.
Yeah, you do. I've always liked him when he played for the Chargers. I mean, look at the receptions over the years and the yardage and so forth. No, he's a marquee player. There's no question about it. The thing is, it's a quarterback-based league, Mike, and Fields is gone, and you have Caleb Williams more than likely coming in. It's too many questions with this young man. I don't know. I wouldn't even know what to say, and I usually have a lot to say. So I mean, they have a good tight end. They have some decent receivers. But it's a quarterback-based league, and you got a rookie that's going to start. So when you have that, I don't see how anybody could give him more than the CJ Strouds of the world are just they're 1 in millions, not 1 in a million, 1 in millions. So
right.
So I that's what I think about the Bears. But Minnesota, I think they'll still be a pretty good football team. They play hard defensively. They play hard, and it's Green Bay and Detroit, I think, for it all. But I think Green Bay. I'm going to say this because we've made some predictions on this show. I called it on your show last year. I said Detroit would win 12 games. Do you remember that?
You did. That was the number you called.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to say this. Yeah, Green Bay will win 13 games next year.
Wow.
So,
hold on. I got to write that one down. Mark Schmidt says Green Bay's going to win 13 wins. Well, I think Jordan Love definitely got off to a rocky start, but once he found his groove, I think he was able to show that it's the same old Packers. We have the same old Lions. It's the same old Packers. They're developing their quarterback, and it really is amazing when you look at the law of averages and the fact that they've had 3 quarterbacks in 30 years. It's mind-boggling, right? I mean,
yeah. Yeah,
right? It really is. Yeah, and 2 of them will be in the Hall of Fame. And this young man is fantastic. Once they figure out, listen, I try to break this down on some of the other podcasts. What the defenses usually play with a rookie quarterback. They play a cover 2 safeties out deep there, okay, and they play a cover 2 man underneath, cover 2 man under. It's a Zorro, what they call a Zorro coverage, okay. And then when they throw the nickel in there on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 6. With that same coverage, you can't read. Sometimes these quarterbacks cannot read. Now, Mahomes read it right out of the gate. They can't read this man underneath stuff. Okay, they have a real problem with it. Once they get it, and it gave Jordan Love it. They're all throwing the same defenses at these young quarterbacks. Now that Aaron Donald kid, he couldn't pick up on it. Still can't pick up on it. You know, Mahomes did it. Jordan Love had real problems with it at the beginning.
Did you mean Sam Darnold? Did you mean Sam Darnold?
Yeah, I meant Sam Darnold. That's what I meant. Okay. He still can't do it, but he's going to make $10 million a year. I don't know. But anyway, that's the coverage that they use. And these guys, you know, until they figure that out, and especially when that 5th defensive back comes in, it's a nightmare for quarterbacks. That's what makes it the toughest job in sports, is that 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7 situation when they're in that cover 2 and you can't read if it's man or zone with that 5th defensive back, and you only need 6 yards. And that's where you give credit to a guy like Kelsey. You don't realize he's running most of his routes at 75%, but the guy just knows where to go and sit and reads the coverage 3 steps into his route. And Mahomes picks up on it so well, and that's what they're doing. And that's where Love has been able to really overcome it. He didn't start well with it, but you know, he figured it out, and that's what it is. It's about figuring it out. I thought Pickett, the kid from Pittsburgh, had it figured out early, but then they kept throwing the same coverage at it, and he couldn't pick it up. You know, unfortunately, and now he's on his way out. I think they probably moved a little too quickly on that situation, but you know, I caught the tail end of that. What you were saying about Pittsburgh, Mike, the tail end of that. Go ahead.
And we did see exactly what you're talking about on that final drive of the Super Bowl, where where Kelsey would just come off the line, like you said, 3 steps, and they never threw a pass more than 7 or 8 yards all the way down the field. And I mean, I feel like I blame the defense more. I mean, you're crediting the offense with that, but I blame the defense for not being able to stop it. Like you said, they're throwing the same defenses at that. That is very, very insightful right there. Travis Kelce.
It's not real. Yeah,
playing pitch and catch all the way down the field to win the Super Bowl. It's mind-boggling.
Just line up face to face with him and just jam him and stay. I mean, he's not that fast, but he just knows that he's the best in the game. I thought Kittle was pretty darn good at it. Kelsey's a master at it. He's running those routes, like you just said, he's running 75%. Sometimes he turns it on, but you know, and Mahomes, the way he picks up coverages, you know, that's what people don't realize about him. First of all, he's almost 6'5", you know, and he just reads so well. He reads the safeties unbelievably. I'm since Brady, I have not seen somebody read like that. No, not even close. And and that's what it's all about at that game, at that level. They bluff the coverages. Those DBs in the league, man, they bluff those coverages so good, and you don't know what the hell's going on. And the receivers got to be on the same page with you. But when they lost Tyreek Hill and he went off to Miami, you know, it doesn't even matter who you put out there with Mahomes. It doesn't matter. Just stick anybody out there; they'll be fine.
Right. Yeah. Look at what they got for him. They got a lot of draft capital that they just loaded up. Trent McDuffie they get out of that deal too. So Brett Veach is a wizard, just like the guy we got here in Detroit, Brad Holmes. And I wanted to talk to you now about Brad Holmes and get your assessment of him. I know that with last time you were on, I mean, everyone knows I'm a Brad Holmes slappy. Okay. I'm just so impressed by this man. Every time he speaks, everyone in the room wants to listen. He's the coolest guy in the room at all times, and players love him. The media loves him. What's Mark Schmidt think of Brad Holmes?
I think his personality is very engaging, and I think that he's in a position that he definitely deserves. There haven't been a lot of black GMs around the league. He's made the most of his opportunity, and he's just done an incredible job. And he's a people person, and he's about the players, and you have to walk that fine line between being disciplined with who you choose to be on that football team and wanting talent. Okay, that's everybody's situation. There's a lot of talent out there, but you got to have the right type of people to put on that football team, because everybody's a star in college, and now you got these guys that are stars in college. Well, they come to the pros and they're average players on the pros, or they're role players, and you got to have a proper nucleus of all that. And he's been a pretty good master of that. I would rate him really high on the GM level. He's put together a great team. He has a wonderful relationship with the head coach. And I don't think that there's anybody doing a better job. You mentioned the Miami, the GM, and Miami's going to be tough. Miami is coming on strong. They're going to push the hell out of Buffalo next year. Now they just signed Jordan Poyer, who's really pissed off at the Bills. I mean, really pissed off. And he's going to Miami in the same division. And he's a kid I like a lot. And, Buffalo has a little bit of a reputation of turning people out that shouldn't be turned out. Okay. Hank Areza, there's one right there, a punter who was accused of rape. Okay. Yeah. And the Buffalo Bills fired him 24 hours later. The man was not even in the building as that girl who was molested. They fired him the next day. And now he signs with the Kansas City Chiefs. All right.
Yeah, I did hear that they signed him.
All right. I know this is a podcast. That's a bunch of bullshit. You don't ruin somebody's life like that. You don't do shit like that. Okay.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't happen in the state of Michigan. That wouldn't happen in the state of Michigan, because this is for wrongful termination. This is the worst state you want to have that done with you. We do have a question here from one of our viewers. Gun Guy says, Mr. Schmidt, do you think Goff is the guy?
I think he is. He got the Rams there early in his career. They got him to the Super Bowl. So I still work off of that. He's gone through long stretches where he hasn't thrown an interception. I think that he is. And the thing is, when you get to that, it's a great question. When you get to that marquee level, Mike, and you are at that point of who can get us there, there's only maybe 8 or 10 guys on the planet that can actually get the team, right? I mean, there aren't more than that. I mean, if you had to take a piece of paper to it right now and you had to put down 10 teams, okay, that have a chance to go to the Super Bowl next year, all those 10 teams have good quarterbacks. That leaves you with 10 guys on the planet, okay? Right, is Jared Goff one of those 10? Yeah, he is. Yeah, you're damn right he is. Okay, he's one of those 10. So if let's put the question right back to you. If he's not the guy, then who the hell is?
There is a contingent of there is a contingent of Lion fans that think Hendon Hooker is going to be the man, and he hasn't made it down
yet. He's a baby. Right. And I don't mean that. I mean that as age wise. I mean, that's why I'm saying it. But you can't. You're talking about. Listen, I've been to that highest level. You know what? I mean, I couldn't believe this one. I'll throw this one at you because I know you're a longtime Lions fan. We draft Chuck Long in this first round. He comes in second to Bo Jackson in the Heisman Trophy, and Chuck had a great career at Iowa. They played in the Rose Bowl. They lost the Rose Bowl, but anyway. So Chuck comes in highly touted, and we go to minicamp. I sign early. We go to minicamp in May, and I'm catching balls from Eric Hipple, and I'm catching balls, and we're running routes, and we're doing 7-on-7, and we're doing this, and we're doing that, and we're under Darryl Rogers and Wayne Fonts, man, mini camps we got into it. It was pretty darn serious, and I'll say this on the air, and I know Chuck Long has had a great career in coaching. He coached at Oklahoma, San Diego State, great guy, and there was no way in my mind I could figure out how even close Chuck Long was to how good Eric Hipple was. It wasn't even close in my mind. That was my opinion. And I've never said that to anybody other than Jeff Chadwick to this day. So,
Actually, I posed that question to you last time we talked. I was telling you about a young main event Mike who couldn't even grow a mustache at that time. And Chuck Long, number 1 draft pick coming out of Iowa. His first pass as a pro is a touchdown bomb to Leonard Thompson. And I said, what happened to Chuck Long? And you came right out and said, Eric Hipple was just better. There was nothing wrong with him. He was great. He was a great rookie quarterback. But we had Eric Hipple.
Yeah.
So it is. So Goff is the man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No question. Oh yeah. No question about it. And I hope the listener, really hears that, because everybody, they're always looking for a different answer. And especially at that level, especially when you have a good season like that. And it's a fair question. It really is. But man, and I don't know if I'm right on the 10. I think I am right on the 10 though. 10 guys, because if you had to pick 10 teams right now,
for sure.
Right? Am I right on the 10?
Yeah, Mike? You're right, guys? Because he finished in the top 5 statistically. So he's absolutely a top 10 quarterback. I don't think you can get anybody to not put him in a top 10. So if you've got a top 10 quarterback in this league, then you don't get rid of him. You don't move on to a rookie from that. So your point's well taken.
No, you don't. Yeah, no, I don't think so. And I think that his players like him an awful lot. And the whole idea of being a quarterback, and I've seen the bad side of this, I'm not going to go into specifics, where the quarterback does not have the locker room, a talented guy that does not have the locker room behind him because he's just an asshole. Doesn't mean to be an asshole. It's just part of his nature. It's really, he has command of that locker room. Those players really love him a lot. Did they just sign Skipper? Did they just sign Skipper today to a long-term contract?
Dan Skipper did re-sign. I thought it was a 1 year though, but Dan Skipper did re-sign. I noticed our good friend Jeremy B is in the chat today. Jeremy, who is on this very network, 11 a.m. weekdays. You can tune in to Football Talk with Smoke and Jeremy B right here on the Main Event 365 network. That's every weekday at 11 a.m. We also have the Maestro Russell Wayne, who broadcasts on this network every day at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. It's Football Talk with Russell Wayne, and you are watching the Main Event, which is a weekly program every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, with your host, myself, Main Event Mike. Today we are talking to former NFL wide receiver Mark Schmidt, and we are talking about the Lions and the quarterback situation is what we've been talking about. Donald here says Lions need a good backup quarterback. If Goff goes down, then who's going to step in and make plays? Well, thank goodness we have a preseason to be able to see Hendon Hooker finally in action. He was barreling towards the Heisman Trophy before an ACL took him out. Have you got any lowdown on this rookie quarterback, Hendon Hooker?
That he learns pretty well, that he picks up things pretty quickly.
Very smart.
Very smart on the field. I watched him at Tennessee. I liked him at Tennessee. Of course, he was one of these guys, like every time I saw Laporta play in college, every time he hit a great game. I probably saw Hooker play 3 or 4 times in college. Every single time he had a really good game. So, he's the future guy, I would think. But, you don't know because he's never really seen any action. I don't know. Did he have any opportunities? Did we have any blowouts last year where he could have put him in for, 8 or 9 minutes in a game, Mike? I can't even remember. Every game
we absolutely did. And we absolutely did. But they didn't activate him until like week 15, though. So, at that point, it's probably just going to be an emergency situation, I would think, right?
So, and that's right. I remember that he was deactivated, but they got to get him some time, and that's where the preseason really comes in. And he's got to get himself his confidence, and then at any time, because again, you're thinking about your future too, that they do get up on an opponent, get him in the game. Get Goff out of there if they ever get up, and they got to get him some time in action. But I'd like to see him have a really good preseason. That would be great. I know that he picks up things very quickly, which is that's half the battle at that position at that level. So the fact that he's doing that physically, he has the skills. I've heard his arm is very, very good. So, if he's learning, and look who he's learning from. I mean, my gosh, Johnson's still there. He's fantastic, and he's got Goff there. So, I mean,
Right.
just do what he does.
Well, and there's a big contingent of Lions fans that say that Goff's lack of mobility hurts us, and that the game is changing, and that a quarterback that is more mobile. Now, I'm just don't shoot the messenger.
Don't shoot the messenger.
A quarterback that is more mobile adds another dynamic, and this is the way that the league is going. So I will ask you this question in a different way: is Justin Fields the guy that could take a team to the Super Bowl? Can you win with Justin Fields and a guy like that with this kind of game?
Probably more so than you can with Russell Wilson. I think that Justin Fields will probably win that job out somehow, some way. I think that's what's going to happen. That's just my own personal opinion. And I go into the future. I don't know. Brady did it up until 2 years ago. I don't know. The game's changing, yeah, but I guess in 2022 it wasn't changed that much, and in 21 he led the league in passing. So that's really not. I don't buy that. I understand where you're coming from, Mike, on that, but I don't know if I'm really buying it.
Okay. So we are aligned there. I mean, like I was saying before you jumped on, until a quarterback with that skill set makes it to a Super Bowl, that plays that game, or predominantly a guy that can rush for 1,000 yards from the quarterback position. If your quarterback's rushing for 1,000 yards, it seems like you're not playing the game right? That's not how you win Super Bowls, with your quarterback rushing for 1,000 yards. What do you think of that?
I think you're 100% right on that. I mean, look at Michael Vick. I mean, there's a lot of guys that you can look to now, a lot of guys that can, run, but you got to be able to play in the pocket. And that is really the way the game is played. I mean, it's great that the yardage that you can get on that. I mean, I'll say this though, too, okay, let's really analyze this for a second. Okay. Let's really analyze this from two of the great players. Who is a faster player, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes? Who's faster?
Faster. I'm going to say probably Patrick Mahomes.
A lot faster. Anyway, my point being is that Mahomes makes it work for him. Okay. He runs only when he really has to. And look at the athlete situation. I mean, Allen's a much better athlete, but it doesn't matter. I'm trying to answer your question with something that actually, an analogy. I think that that's a great example because, he makes it work for him. So that tells you right there that being a pocket passer is really what it's about. Get the yardage when you can. I mean, Josh Allen's jumping over guys. He's a phenomenal athlete. Yeah. Phenomenal athlete.
I'm kicking myself for my answer. You took me off guard. Josh Allen on a dead run. Yeah, you saw what he could do there in the Pittsburgh game in the playoffs, where he just was at a 50-yard run from scrimmage. He looked like a running back, a tailback in the open field. So absolutely.
53 yards. And yeah, I mean, it was me. So, you can say, all right, well, we need a guy who can really run. Okay. Like a Josh Allen. All right. Or you got a guy like Mahomes who runs only when he has to. He's got the dad bod, right? But I'm just making points here of things that we've heard in the media and things that are reality. And he makes it work. His legs. I'm going to even say this because I follow the Bills all the time. Mahomes' legs have made bigger. It's just as big a plays as Josh Allen's, and Josh Allen's much better athlete. So if you relate it to what the question is about the 1,000-yard rusher, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you do it when you have to, but you don't need that, and it's probably a detriment to your team. And you have the injury factor going along with it all. So you really don't want your quarterback to rush for 1,000 yards. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Well, that's my point. Yeah.
You don't even want it.
You're doing it wrong if your quarterback's
you're doing it wrong.
So hey, it looks like the maestro has joined us. Russell Wayne, are you there? No, I guess not. Well, anyway, Mark, I do have one more question for you. One more topic, I should say, that I want to touch on, and that is draft needs for the Detroit Lions, what do you look at as, I mean, no, there's a lot of people who don't think we're going to stay at 29, whether they're going to move up or going to move down, or whether we do or don't. What do you think will be the target for Brad Holmes? He's already said many times he doesn't draft positions, they draft football players, and we don't know what player they've got their eye on. They could totally blow us out. But if you were Brad Holmes, what position are you targeting in the draft?
I'm telling you what, I'm not targeting defensive back because we've just been running guys in and out. I think we got enough there for training camp to get through and find the right 4 or 5 guys, 6 guys that are going to play. So I think they don't want to do that. You don't want to draft linebackers because we're pretty much set there. We've updated the defensive line with the signing from Cincinnati. So I don't know how much you want to really update there. And this is what young men got to understand when you're coming into the league. You're coming into a team that's a top 5 team. Offensive line is probably the strongest part of the team. Running back was very strong. Receiver, possibly, yes. I would say, why you're talking first round. I think that's what you asked the question, first round. So I would say probably receiver, and maybe, my gosh, look at your tight end, your running back. I mean, you're
stacked on the offense. I'm surprised you're picking an offensive player.
I am. I'm picking a marquee receiver. This class is full of some very, very good receivers. Probably 5 players in the first round coming up in this draft. Or then you can maybe get a kid, like this McConkey kid from Georgia. If you want to draft a slot guy, we could maybe use a slot guy. McConkey's going to go in the second round, played in a big-time program, big-time offense. He's a guy that you might want to look at in a second round. They're going to draft a couple of wide receivers. I truly believe that. Defensively, you just drafted Campbell. You got Anzalone on a long term. You got some guys at the linebacker position that's pretty much set.
But an edge rusher. What about an edge rusher? That's where I think they go first round as edge.
Yeah, I could see that. I agree with you on an edge rusher and a wide receiver. That I could definitely see. They want to get somebody to try to match. They did take this kid from Canada. The young man from his. Again, I tune into maybe 3 CFL games a year. Man, the kid. He looks good. I think there's a spot for him on the team. I think he's going to make the roster. I think he's going to be here. Whether he can match, Aiden Hutchinson on the other side, we don't know that. But I think this kid's going to be on the team. That's just my personal opinion. That's just what I feel.
So, yeah, he's under contract. Even if he's on the practice squad, he's not going anywhere right away. I mean, we're going to see, and looking at the tape, watching the highlights of him in the Canadian Football League, I'm optimistic, actually.
And I have a lot of my friends in Windsor who are Lions fans, so that's probably no. I'm kidding. But we look at it objectively. And but he's like I said, I've seen him play 2 or 3 times up there. I think he was CFL Defensive Player of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, last year.
That's correct.
And guys like that usually get a shot, and as he should. But they've said all along that there is a roster spot for him. And God bless him. I hope he does. I really do. I'm wishing for. But again, back to your question, I would agree with an edge rusher. Yes, I'm with you on that.
And I'm glad you brought up Matthew Betts, because that's the one thing that I think Brad Holmes seems to do better than anyone is evaluate talent. He's a talent evaluator. This is the man who talked the Rams into drafting Aaron Donald, and a lot of people said that was a bad pick on draft day, and now he just wraps up his career as a first ballot Hall of Famer. And what Brad Holmes has been able to do with this team in his 3 years as general manager, he's been able to retain almost every draft pick that he's made in 3 years, which is unheard of, really. To have, I mean, we just lost Chase Lucas, who signed with another team, was a 7th round draft pick. Without Chase, when you put Chase Lucas back in, that's every single draft pick for 3 years still under contract with the team. I mean, that's a pretty impressive run, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I do. And the reason why is because, he's, they draft good people, you hear me, Mike?
I can hear you.
Okay. I just want to make sure. But they're drafting good people, and that's what I said at the beginning of the show. You're in the situation of talent, but you got to draft good human beings and good citizens and so forth. And that's what Brad Holmes has been able to do, and that's why these guys are still around, and they're all under the same belief that they can do well if they listen to Coach Campbell, and they're buying into his program. And they're buying into Brad Holmes's program, and again, a lot of talent out there, but you need people that are good people, and they've really been able to do that. And God bless them for being able to do it, because it's not easy. I mean, everybody knows that, but you walk into that locker room, it's about doing your job, and it's about winning football games. And I just hope I'm wrong about the Green Bay Packers this year. So,
well, I wouldn't put too much stock in what Mike Greenberg says. He's a Jets fan. So we're talking to former Detroit Lion wide receiver Mark Schmidt, and he is on the program today. And thank you so much for being with us today, Mark. Is there anything coming up? Anything you want to plug?
No, just involved with the NFLPA, and still talking to them, still trying to get artificial turf out of this game. I have yet to see a game on a wet day with a little bit of mud where players go down every 3 or 4 plays. I have yet to see that. That doesn't happen. The NFL needs to get rid of artificial turf. I preach about it all the time. I've talked to Nolan Harrison from the NFLPA, who's in charge of our end of the country. And we got to get rid of it. It's got to go. It's one thing that I'm big on. I say it on every podcast. The game is not as exciting. It's not as interesting to watch when it's on artificial turf. And we've done so many things in the game to help these players, and you're still playing on the wrong surface. I mean, you can have all the equipment changes in the world and all the things we're doing for head injuries and everything else if you're playing on the wrong surface. But anyway, the NFLPA is doing well. I do have some feelings about, Roger Goodell. We'll get into that another time. I think it's getting to be a time for some change there. And that's my feeling on that. You asked me pretty much, what I wanted, and he's done a decent job, but I think his time has come. That's just my opinion. So I have some feelings of that needs to be changed. Some of the Pittsburgh Steelers have come out and said some things about it. And about the commissioner and so forth. And it's just, wow. That time is going to come.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, great stuff, Mark. Thanks so much. It's such a pleasure to talk to you every time. You're so knowledgeable, and we really appreciate you coming on the show today. And, hey, I think it's going to be an awesome, real quick, Lions, make me another prediction here. Well, you know what? It's too early. Never mind.
No, it's okay. No, I like coming down the show. So I'll say 11-6 next year.
11-6, finishing second behind Green Bay with 13.
Yeah, finishing second behind Green Bay, 13-4. I was right last year on this show. So, I hope I'm not right, but I just like, when you hear guys, I just got back from the Super Bowl. And it was I had dinner with a bunch of guys that had played in the Super Bowl. And when you hear older players in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who have a conversation about Matt LaFleur, okay, who had nothing to do with there wasn't one ex-Green Bay Packer, but there was 1 or 2 Green Bay Packers that was there. I'm sorry. And listening to these guys talk about Matt LaFleur on how he could just flat out coach, and he's one of the best in the business. And I really agree with that. The 49ers, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of on the fence about them. Very good football team, but with the best running back in the game, and probably, one of the best defensive linemen in the game. But, I'm not sold on San Francisco, and that gives, Detroit an in. And, so it's going to be tough, as it always is. And, now Baltimore, I look for them to do a lot of damage in the AFC. They're pretty well going to be loaded. So, and they'll have their tight end back, Andrews, and so forth. So, it's going to be an interesting year. And the draft is coming up in Detroit. So that's awesome that Detroit is hosting the draft. That's terrific.
That is terrific. But you're right. Derrick Henry in Baltimore now with Lamar Jackson.
Unbelievable. Stacked.
I mean, in the second half, Lamar's just going to be able to hand it to Derrick Henry and not have to worry about, playoff.
Yeah,
Lamar
I think that they're
up.
due. I think Baltimore is due to go far into the playoff. You know, I mean, because Kansas City's had their time. Buffalo is in a little bit of a rebuilding process. They're $43 million over the cap. They've had to shed, you know, Mitch Morse. They had to shed, you know, Poyer, Jordan Poyer,
White.
and a couple of, and 4 or 5 other players that, you know, Hasty. They had to get rid of him. I mean, so that's when you're over the cap like that. I think Buffalo's had their time. You have a 3 or 4 year window to win this thing, and they're on year number 5. Kansas City has they got Mahomes. It doesn't really count, so their window just stays open. I guess, right? But so that's the way I see the AFC. I see Baltimore being there. I'm not sold on San Francisco. I'm sold on Green Bay.
What about Houston?
Chicago's a question mark. Texans? But anyway, and Detroit's going to be in the mix. But you know, I don't know.
What about Houston Texans?
I think they're back to a 9-8 team next year. I think that was a little bit of a mirage. They got real lucky. The ball bounced their way so many times. I'm not taking anything away from CJ Stroud. But man, they got lucky and then lucky again and then luckier as it went down the road. And they had a great year, and that real good football coach there, coaching that team. And Stroud had a great year, but I think they're a 9-8 team next year. Hold me to that.
All right, I'm going to. I mean, Daniil Hunter is now added on that team, and
9-8,
and Joe Mixon, and they've got some additions there. So I do like it. You've got Will Anderson.
All right, and you know who I forgot about? And what do you think about Cincinnati this year?
I think Cincinnati, their window's closed too. I think they've got the quarterback to get you there, but they're losing too many pieces all around him. You had you had a window there with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. That window's closed now. They just signed Mike Gesicki, is that right? Who's a good pass catcher.
Yeah, they signed Gesicki. Yeah,
he's a good pass catcher. They signed him.
They do.
So that's going to help.
I like
the young back. I like the young back, Evan Brown, as well.
Evan Brown. Yeah, there's a wide receiver who I'm familiar with who started at UB, ended up at Purdue. His name is Charlie Jones. He's a 4th round pick. He may fill some shoes there. Irwin's got to step up as a wide receiver. They've got some question marks, but I think they'll still be in the mix.
Mm-hmm. No, you think the Cincinnati will be in the mix?
Yeah, I think Cincinnati. I think they're an 11-win team. I really do.
And as you alluded to earlier, I think the AFC North is probably the toughest division in football.
Thank you.
With the Ravens, Browns, Bengals, and now the Steelers getting some help at quarterback.
Yeah.
And they've got some real intriguing players on that team in Pittsburgh as well, and a great coach in Mike Tomlin. So, yeah. So you are watching the main event, and Mark Schmidt, we're going to say goodbye to you now, and thanks so much for being on the show. Mark Schmidt, everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Russell. Appreciate it, guys. Always a pleasure.